Only one made it to the White House. But will he really make a difference?
Dear Mr. President, we are concerned about the fact that the United States is responsible for most of the carbon emissions let out into the atmosphere by consuming the most energy out of the entire world.
Though accounting for only 5% of the world's population, Americans consume 26% of the world's energy.
America uses about 15 times more energy per person than does a typical developing country. Approximately 30,000 lives are cut short in the U.S. each year due to the pollution from electricity production.
In other words, the 5% of the world's population that lives in the U.S. has more environmental impact than the 51 that live in the other 5 largest countries. Why are we focusing on the United States? Because it consumes far more energy than any other country, more than China and Russia put together. Just 5% of the world's population consumes 23% of its energy.
Require that 10% of our energy comes from renewable sources by the end of my first term. To meet these goals, we will invest more in the clean technology research and development that's occurring in labs and research facilities all across this country and right here at MSU.
In this graph, it shows the population of each country as well as the amount of energy it consumes. The red is for the energy consumption and the green is for the population.
As you can see, the United States is the 3rd most populated country, and the country that consumes the most energy.
And look, even though the population of China and Russia far exceeds the population of the United States, the U.S. still uses up the most energy.
And countries like Indonesia, that almost have the same population as the U.S., still consumes far less energy than the United States. Wow, we really are a significant part of this climate problem. But maybe we can help solve this problem by performing simple tasks, like turning off lights when leaving a room, or maybe by recycling plastic bottles and paper.
Before, firefighters used to use oil in order for the trucks to function properly, although it would sometimes spill and make its way to a water source. But
today the fire department uses an environmentally safe and biodegradable oil in the fire trucks to help us keep the environment cleaner.
Do you have any suggestions on what kids could do to help the environment?
I think if children will remind their parents, who can make some of the biggest changes and impacts, if children will constantly remind their parents to make changes in their habits for the environment, yes.
those were some very helpful facts from the Key Biscayne firefighters.
Another way we can help is by changing ordinary light bulbs into fluorescent light bulbs.
That's a great idea, and there's much more that we can do too. And did you know that since the temperature is increasing so rapidly, it is too hard for the animals to adapt to these changes? And since these animals can adapt to these changes, this causes extinction.
Polar bears, for example. Since the world is becoming warmer, the polar bear's habitat, which is the desert of snow, is melting. They are slowly becoming extinct and are on the danger list along with many other species of animals that also lose their habitat.
Too much energy consumption can cause global warming. Global warming has a negative effect on the health of humans. For example, it will increase the incidence of such diseases in poorer countries, where these diseases exist. Global warming will also cause countries who have ear addicted to these diseases to spend more on vaccinations and other ways of ear addiction like pesticides and etc.
Mr. Barack Obama, please take this into consideration. We need your help. We need your help. Only you can lead the U.S. to go green and make the world a better place to live in.
The first question is going to be, what do you think we should do to help consume less energy?
Well, first of all, you could just see what you do day by day. What are your consumptions? Are you some of the things that simple people use all the time are plastic bottles. Are you recycling? Looking at your own consumption, how you're spending energy, all these things, depending where you're from, burns fuel. And we're trying to prevent less emissions of what are called greenhouse gases. And greenhouse gases are what's warming our planet. Basically, it's not allowing the heat to escape the earth. So one of the simplest things that people could do is just look at their own consumption and try to reduce that and also promoting recycling and conservation.
And the next question is, why do you think that the U.S. is the country that consumes the most energy?
Why do I think? Well, actually, some statistics do prove that as far as one of the main source of energy, oil, we actually use the most compared to the rest of the world. That's just the proven fact, and that's why it's very important here in the United States to start changing that consumption. In other parts of the world, in other countries, they promote it, especially in European countries. You see a lot of that of less consumption, smaller cars. These are things that we're trying to do here, and we're going to start. I'm pretty sure in the next couple of years we're going to start heading in that direction.
And what do you think will happen in the future if we keep on consuming too much energy?
Oh, well, outlook isn't too good. Eventually we will run out of that energy though, and that's an important thing for us. If we run out of that energy, then how are we going to power our cars? And that's why cars, for example, is where we're starting to change from what they call carbon-based fuels and going to solar power, electric, hydrogen-fueled cars. So, we will eventually run out of those fossil fuels, the ones that are unfortunately polluting and emitting the greenhouse gases. So in one way or another, we're going to have to go to alternative energy, wind, solar, and hydropower. So.
And the last question is, do you think that the U.S. is trying to help stop global warming enough to make a difference?
At this point, it hasn't done enough, in my opinion. It could definitely do better. There's a lot of other countries that are obviously way ahead in us in this department, and that's why I think we could change. I mean, this is a country with a lot of money, a lot of resources. Why not? We should definitely consider and be the leader as far as setting the example in the whole world of how trying to conserve and recycle and use less fossil fuels.
That was very helpful. That was Victor, marine biologist from the Nature Center, Condon Park. This new year, try to help the environment and the world by doing little things that can make a big difference in the environment.